Hello and welcome to the Rose Rehash. I'm Jared Freid. We're here after every episode of The Bachelorette to recap the show, give out awards, and answer your audience questions. If you want your question answered at the end of the show, tag me at Jared Freid. Put it in the question box and we'll get to it at the end. Also, remember to comment, like, subscribe to this channel. If you're here for the first time, welcome to my YouTube channel. Would love for you to subscribe. Want to hear your comments in the comment section. There's a lot to go over tonight. I mean, this is going to, and it is a double episode next week. We got a 3-hour episode next week, so make sure you're subscribed. I mean, tonight is going to have a lot of differing opinions. I'm actually interested to hear what the audience has to say. It's it's funny because I've been not the biggest sensitive Greg fan from minute one. I didn't really trust him. I didn't see it. I couldn't believe that someone could fall that hard. But we're gonna get to that because I don't know. I after tonight, I don't think Greg was. I think he handled things badly, but I don't think he was wrong. So we'll get to that at the end of the episode, but make sure you comment, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe to my channel. Also, I got live shows this weekend. I'm in Richmond, Virginia. If you're around Richmond, Virginia, come on out to the shows, jaredfreid.com for tickets, jaredfreid.com. I'm also coming to Mohegan Sun, Chicago, Baltimore. We got a little Baltimore show tonight. I'm coming to all your towns, jaredfreid.com, jaredfreid.com. Okay, let's get into it. We start the episode with we're doing hometowns. I love hometowns week. I love when the parents get involved. I love when the families are there, the friends are there, the sisters, the siblings. It's just a fun change up from the regular show. The first one is going to be with Blake, and Blake to me, he there's not a lot there. I think Blake to me is she's hot, she likes sex, I like her. I really do believe that. Every conversation they have leads to something sexual. It never stays in any vulnerable spot except to be, hey, will they, won't they? Hey, I can't wait. And we saw that tonight. They do this Canada date. The Canada date is fine. They do all the Canadian stuff. Blake claims that he drinks apple, or no, he drinks maple syrup. He has maple syrup next to his bed. And, I think that's a liar. I think that's someone that's trying to sound. It's like, to me, that's the same as like, there's at every college, there's some kid that goes by the nickname Boston because they're from a suburb outside of Boston. And then they throw on the accent really thick. And then all of a sudden, they're Sully from Boston when they were really just Jason from Natick a month ago. And it's kind of like what Blake is doing here. Blake's like, yeah, I take a shot of syrup every morning and I drink it. And Katie's eating it up. And you're like, okay. She's like, do you use it in bed? And he's like, of course I use it in bed. I can tell you right now, he doesn't use it in bed. You would have no sheets to his name. No sheets would go on his bed anymore. His mattress would be ruined. Maybe that's just the inner Jewish woman inside of me that just doesn't buy that he's just slurping up syrup. Honestly, there's less sticky items to use in the bedroom than syrup. It's just not doable. It must be a lie. So they ride the moose and they do the whole thing, and he grabs her ass. They play hockey in the road. A car comes by. Game off. Game on. Very cute. But also, it stays sexual. It stays surface level. It doesn't really, to me, it feels like those two would have a great hinge date. Like those two would meet on a dating app, fuck the first night, and keep in contact and keep fucking, but never really get past that. That's kind of how I see the relationship being. And they go to his parents or his family, and it's his mom and his sister and his brother. The brother doesn't say two words. The mom looks like Shania Twain. I think there is this thing with Canadian women where they are just like, I'm going Shania. She was like in Shania Twain cosplay. And she's like, so beyond, like even the mom was like, so is it just a physical thing? And you're like, mom, and Blake's like, it's 100% physical, but we have other stuff too. And it's like, why is everyone talking about sex this openly? Like, why is that the only thing that goes on between these two? So the mom takes her aside. It goes fine. But one thing Katie says to Blake's mom that's very important is she has this weird rule that she will not say I love you until it's the final person. And she seems to be sticking to this rule. And she says it to Blake's mom, but she wants to hear it from them. She wants to hear that they're falling in love. And Blake can't get there. Blake sits with his sister. Blake's sister is awesome. Blake's sister calls him out. I think the women that come on this show, all the women that visit, the moms, the sisters, they are ready to go. The men are just like, so do you enjoy each other's company? The women are like, Blake's sister looks at Blake and goes, oh, so is this the one again? Because it seems like Blake confuses lust for love. Seems to be the thing. And the sister says it. You fell in love with Claire. You fell in love with Tasha. You fell in love with Katie. You threw it. You DM, and all of a sudden you're in. And it's a good thing to bring up. It's what it should be brought up. Why are you always so in love? Or do you confuse being into someone for love? What's going on? So Blake's date ends. We go to Justin. Justin has been on this show. Justin, Katie claims is her first kiss on the show. I don't remember that even happening. I didn't know that was her first kiss. Did it happen at the first rose ceremony? So Justin, we start with him on the phone with his parents. His call with his parents is one of the funniest things I've ever heard on the show. His parents obviously are very close to them. Obviously love him. They're on the phone. He goes, and it was such a parent thing because they're talking in circles. They're like, yeah, we just don't know how you could fall in love with someone after 2 weeks. And he's like, yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to figure out. And they're like, yeah, but then you got to meet the person's family. You got to get to know who they are. And he's like, yeah, that's why I'm trying to get you to come to Albuquerque to meet this person. And the mom's like, that's a good point. I hear what you're saying, but good luck. Hopefully everything goes fine. Enjoy your trip. And you're just like, you could tell the parents are like, we love you. We know this ain't going to happen. Enjoy your trip. We'll see you in a few weeks. And it was very enjoyable to me. It kind of showed you're like, these parents knew. They're like, this ain't happening. This isn't going to be the one. So Justin goes on the date with Katie, and they do a Baltimore date. So they're going to show her Baltimore. What's it like in Baltimore? Not a good night for Baltimore. He basically is like, yeah, we have horse-drawn carriages and graffiti and crabs. That's Baltimore. Like, there was nothing else. Horse-drawn carriage. In what world is Baltimore the home of the horse-drawn carriage? In what world is a graffiti on a wall like your biggest, don't you have a museum? Isn't there like a Capitol building? What's going on? The crabs were fine. That was fine, but not a very sexual or romantic food. Just two people cracking in. There are certain foods that are meant for a date and other foods that are meant for someone that you are with. Someone there, unless you have seen each other, unless you have heard the person squeeze out a dump, then you can't get crabs. It's just not one of those foods because you can't be dainty. And even if you were on a date with crabs, that's not fun. You can't even dig into them. You want to be elbow deep in Old Bay, cracking them open, looking like you're killing them twice. If you can't do that, it's not worth the date. So Justin has the crab date, and then they come together to this couch where they're going to be having the second half. How in the world does it not come up on the course of their Baltimore date that his parents aren't coming? Like, if you're Katie, wouldn't you feel kind of lied to at that point? Like, I'd be like, wait a minute, you didn't say this, you didn't think it was important to let me know like hours ago so I could prepare? Like, I've been nervous the whole day about meeting your mom. Now I'm meeting some friend. He's like, my two friends are coming, and they're like brothers to me. And no, they're not like brothers to you. They're friends. They're buddies of yours. And the two buddies come, and they're fine. They look like two Murray Hill dudes that work in finance. They're fine guys. They're Herbie and Tommy or whatever the fuck their name is. And here's the thing. The men that come on to visit the show, even if it's a dad, they don't ask any questions. They're just not looking to get in the way. Men just don't get involved in each other's love lives like that. And you could see it from these two buddies. The two buddies are like, so yeah, things are pretty. And like Katie's like, he was my first kiss. And they're like, cool. Like their interest was very surface level. If she's gone tomorrow, don't worry. Their buddy Justin's going to be A-okay. He's been okay before he went on this show. So the friends interviewing her and talking to her, like, to me it was a zero. It meant nothing. It's not you're not going to find anything out. They're not going to ask the hard questions. They're going to ask questions. Men ask questions, especially your friends. Male friends ask questions of your significant others that will never ruin a blowjob. That's the deal. Your male friends are just there to not fuck up your night. That's how men act towards each other in their relationships. Just don't fuck up my buddy's night, and then we're good. So we get done with Justin's date, and you just kind of knew. You're like, this Justin date was kind of a waste of time. We go to Greg's date. Greg's date is Greg says he lives by the beach. I've been gotten a few messages. Apparently he's from Edison, New Jersey, which is not near the beach, but he made it sound like he was a Jersey Shore guy. Okay, fine. So we're going to go on a bicycle. We're going to do the tandem bicycle. We're going to go for a ride. And then we're going to have some pork roll with a bagel and pork roll, which your friend from Pennsylvania is like, no, it's scrapple, and they're annoying. And then they're going to do what are they going to do? They have Italian ice, and they're going to go surfing, and it was fine. Then they play basketball, but then they start really like opening up to each other, and you can feel that there is a connection. The dad stuff, both their dads have passed away. They talked about that, and I didn't buy Sensitive Greg's thing because you're like, it just didn't feel right. Then because you're thinking like, how could he be so in so soon? So we go to the family part of the date, and it's his brother, it's his mom, and his best friend. And the two sisters are at home. They show a tape of the two sisters with all the nieces and nephews. I've made fun of that before. The mom seems to connect with Katie, is asking questions. She's like, what do you love most about my son? It sounded like the mom just wanted to hear how good of a mother she was. And it's like Katie does the whole thing, and it goes well. But there's a very specific part. Greg is talking with with his best friend. And he says to the best friend, Greg is also saying, he says, first of all, Greg says to the best friend, he says, we have already talked logistics. She's going to move to New York. I'm going to be in Jersey. Okay. That to me is a very important piece of information. That means he has been promised something. That means she has led him to believe like you're going to be someone that's going to be here, that you're someone that I see being with, that we're starting to plan future stuff. And I do. So then he goes to his mom and he says, I'm in love with this girl. I mean, you can't tell your mom I'm in love with this girl on TV and say that he's trying to like say anything else. That is a very honest moment. He said it with no hesitation. He's a mess. He's crying. So he tells his mom, I love this girl. But if I'm going to be in love with her, if I'm going to get on that knee, I need to hear it from her. He says it. I need to hear it from her. Okay. So we leave the family. Greg and Katie sit down, and he says to Katie, I don't know how much more clear, how much more clear he could be. He says, I'm in love with you. You have filled a place in my heart. And she said, I'm the happiest I've ever been. It's been ever since my dad passed away. This has been the happiest. He goes, this is real. And he gives a very real speech about how much he loves her. And Katie is just like, and it's like, Katie, you got to give something. You got to give something. And I could understand in that moment where he's like, I've never opened up to someone like this. This is the happiest I've ever been. I just told my mom and my brother and my best friend, this is the girl for me. This is the one I love. And now she's not giving me 1 ounce. And it's like, you got to get, and I think he got afraid. He looked at that and he goes, oh shit. She won't even go outside. And she's staring. She goes, I just like to look at you. What did she say? I wrote this down. I just love looking at you. That is not what you want to hear when you have been the most vulnerable you've ever been with a woman. And you could see in that moment, Greg's like, oh shit, I don't think she's as into me as I'm into her. Because I think what he was looking for was he's looking for her to go, okay, I love you too. I'm feeling this too. Like in his world, he's like, how have I never done this with a person? If I've never done this with a person, then I need them to do something they would never do with anyone else as well. I can understand that. So then we go, she puts him in the car. You could tell the vibe has changed. We go to the next day. Greg goes to go find her, goes to her room, and is basically like, I'm out. Now, a lot of people are going to say this is a cop out. Listen, I'm hot on that opinion all the time. Michael A., I called that a cop out. I'm still saying it. Greg, what he did is I think he got personally hurt. His ego got bruised, and then he tried to roll it back. And he did get high and mighty in this moment. Let me start by saying he didn't sound great. He put her in a position to be the bad guy, which fine, but like he didn't have to go down a road of like, well, look what you did. It's no. I love you way more than you love me, and that's not someone I'm looking to be engaged to. Katie's also leaning on this technicality of being like, well, I don't want to say I love you to the person that, until it's the last person. It's like, Katie, at some point you have to go outside of this show. It seems like you've made him promises. You talked about moving to New York, so you can't, and she's talking about, she's all show. She's not talking to Greg. And I take Greg's side on that. She's all, well, you're the number one and you're in the lead and you're definitely not going home this week. And it's like, at some point, this all goes away. At some point, the cameras go off and it's not a race to the end. And it's like, you have to, and it's like, you have sent people home early. You can go outside of the show. You don't owe Justin and Blake a thing. And she was acting like she did, like she has to be nice to everybody. And it's like, at some point, you have to say, I'm doing this because I want it. So then what do you want? Maybe you just want the show. That's what it felt like in that moment. Because what do you want? You want the guy or you want the show? So Greg basically leaves the room. Katie goes and chases him down. He says, I'm leaving. Katie says, it's over. I need to go. She goes to the bathroom. And they send maybe the worst person they could ever send, Caitlin Bristow, to go talk her down. And it's like, Caitlin comes in. She's like, I remember. Caitlin talked to Katie like she was her cold mother who didn't really connect with her daughter. She's like, well, did he say he might come back? Why did you let him go? And it's like, Caitlin, why don't you just be a listening ear? And she has a whole talk with her, and Caitlin seems to be like trying to get her to like move it along. She's like, so what do you want to do? What are you looking to do? It's like, Caitlin, do you have somewhere to be? Like, what are you worried about missing the next Dancing with the Stars season? And that's how it ends, with Katie saying, I'm going home. Book me a flight. Let's give out some awards. The Batchies is where I give out awards. I give out roses to my favorite characters and divorce papers to my least favorite characters. Let's start with the roses. I'm going to give my first rose to Justin's parents. Justin's parents, they were like, yeah, we love you, son, but this ain't for us. I love that type of honesty. I love that you could feel how much they loved their son over the phone. You could feel how much this was like a family thing. And they're just like, yeah, we don't think this is how it's going to work with us. And they weren't going to be steamrolled by their son who they knew wasn't going to get engaged. Loved it. The next rose goes to Blake's sister. Blake's sister is the reason you always need sisters to come on the show. They ask the best questions. They get the most honest details. Blake's sister is literally looking at him with that one thin eyebrow being like, so, who are we in love with now? And it tells you everything. It tells you everything about Blake. It tells you everything about how he is in interpersonal relationships. It tells you that Blake is confusing lust for love, and it's just not real. The last rose is going to go to Greg. Sensitive Greg, I've been hard on you all season. The sensitivity is real. You were a mess. You gave in. You literally said, I love this girl. I want to marry this girl. I want it to work out. You told your family. You told your brother. You told your best friend. And you went 100% in, which is more than most people do on this show. And you have to give that credit. Let's give out some divorce papers. First divorce paper goes to any man visiting the show. The men visiting the show ask the worst questions. Any man, whether it's a dad or a friend or a brother, just gets you no information during hometowns. They're just there to just be like, hey, we really love our son. Hey, my brother's a great guy. Hey, our friend Greg, one of a kind. Oh, our friend Justin, you must be quite the catch because he's picky. Like, they say nothing and it offers no information. The next divorce paper is going to go to Greg. Sensitive Greg went too far. Here's the thing. He said I loved you. He gave vulnerability. She gave none of that back. I can understand where he goes, I got to walk it back. This person is not my person. If they're not going to be head over heels like I am, I'm not getting into it. But then once he goes back to her and he starts trying to get an explanation out of her and he starts explaining himself, he starts to blame her. And it's like, you can't blame her for not loving you as much as I love you. It's okay to end it with someone because you're like, wait a minute, I'm way out in front of this person and they're not where I am. So that isn't what I want out of a relationship. That's okay. But then to blame them and to say you didn't say the right things and make them play this guessing game, he got on a high horse. It got to the point where he was on this high horse and being like, well, you're just playing a game. Well, maybe the game isn't important to her. Maybe the Bachelor is important to her. And it's just not her mind really isn't where yours is. And that's okay. It's just not the match. The last divorce paper, it's got to go to Katie. Katie, you can't have it all. You can't have it all. You can't stay in the structure of the game forever. And if that's what you want, that's fine. But you stayed in the structure of the game, and you're expecting everyone else to also. So when someone says, I love you, I'm giving you everything, and you go, well, I'll be reserving my I love you for the end, it does seem like you care more about the show and ending the show and having a good clean bow at the end of it. It does feel like you're not really connecting with these people in the way that they're connecting with you. So when you give that answer of, well, I'll be saying I love you, it kind of goes back to kind of the way she's run this show in general. It's always, I have to do the right thing by everybody. It doesn't matter. You got to be selfish. If you're going to fall in love, you got to be selfish. You have to put it out there. And she's basically saying, no, well, I have to be good to Justin, even though you didn't meet his family. Like, he's not the one. You don't owe him anything. You owe yourself. And you kind of removed yourself from it so that you could get to the end of the show. It didn't make sense. Let's take some questions. Do you think Greg or Katie got a bad edit in this episode? How would you respond to a partner questioning your integrity like Greg did? Yeah, that's the part where Greg got ahead of himself, where Greg got a little bit mean, where he's going, he made it it's hard because I don't think that there was some weird editing going on. I do believe that. It doesn't, like, Greg comes down to the house and just sits with Blake. Where was Justin then? Had Justin already gone home? What happened there? But I don't think I don't understand how there could be a bad edit. The only bad edit it would be if they cut something out of the part where Katie goes, I just love looking at you. Like, was something said before that to make him even more angry? But I don't know where the bad edit would have came in. Let's go to the next one. Who in Bachelor Nation deserves an ending credits in memoriam more than Greg? So I don't watch the ending credits. I don't. I think the ending credits memoriam should go should go to the producers who came up with these dates. I mean, just all their, or you give one to Chris Harrison after he was kicked off the show with all the moments where he fucked up, But I saw that out of the corner of my eye because I don't usually watch the end credits, and I just thought that was weird. I don't know why they felt the need to show us their best moments. Let's go to another one. Where do you think Tayshia was? Tayshia, was she making TikToks in the other room? Why was it only Caitlyn? Like, was that the only one who picked up their phone? Was that the only one that was around? And Caitlyn, just the ice queen, just like, okay, so what do you think this means for you? It's like, we needed Tayshia then. We got any more? What would your hometown date be if you were trapped at a resort? Oof, that's a tough one. Mine would be so much food that by the end, it would just end at a porta potty. Like I would have all of the drunk food. I'd be like, this is what I do on a Saturday night. And we'd go from bagels to pizza to Chinese food and then back to bagels again, then porta potty. Let's do another one. So I'm being told there's a lot of reactions to Greg. Let's see some reactions here to the Greg stuff. Greg is such a good actor. He realized he needed to propose next week and acted his way out of it, also hoping to keep everyone happy to be the next Bachelor. Gaslighting 101. I would disagree. I would totally disagree because you do, I you think of the most human parts of it, and you can believe this if you'd like. And I've listen. This is stuff that I've said about other people before, and I have no reason to defend Greg. But you look at your mom and you say, I love her so much, I'm going to get engaged to her. He said that to his mom. He didn't say that to a buddy. He didn't say that face to camera. He said that to his mom, and the mom stood there. So he has consequences for that. I mean, that's really commitment to the craft if that is an acting job. So whether you want to believe it or not, like a lot of people like I thought Michael A kind of played that card. Michael A sat, was like, took the excuse he was given and really only had to say it to Katie. The difference is Greg has to pull it back from his brother, from his mom, from his friend. I mean, the friend doesn't matter, but from his mom. So I hear what you're saying. I just don't agree with it at all. Do we have another reaction to Greg? Greg overreacted, seems emotionally abusive the way he blew up like that. Relationships are trying. I would never want to be with someone who responds that way. Well, would you want to be with someone that you say, I love you, and you fill the place in my heart, and then they just look at you and go, I just love to look at you? I think to use emotionally abusive, I mean, you're using a word to fend anyone off. That phrase is a phrase that people use in this situation. Like, that's a little extreme for me. To me, I did think this was a real showing of him, being as real as he's been on the show. And I don't know. I think that's an extreme phrase to use to kind of make him the evil person while also kind of lessening that word, because that phrase, because that is a phrase that is very serious. Do you have another one? Greg is a spoiled boy who, when he doesn't get his way, resorts to gaslighting. Katie is better off without him. I do think he reacted in a way like someone who has never given his feelings to a woman. And when his feelings weren't given back to him, then he reacted, badly and made it a like superiority thing. I do think he made it like you're into the show and I'm into real. That's not a fair thing to do. I don't think that's fair. But I do think he acted like someone who had never been turned down before in his life or never heard a bad answer. Um, gaslighting. I didn't really pick that up. I think that was just him being upset. But you can look at it any way you'd like. That's our show. We'll be back for the finale next week. Boom.